You're watching NFT Talk with Brick Astley.
GM, welcome to NFT Talk. I'm your host, Brick Astley. The purpose of this talk show is to highlight one-on-one art on exchange art. Today's guest spreads the morning vibes Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Hyro, welcome to NFT Talk. Exchange Art and I really appreciate your time being here today to talk about your work on the blockchain.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate the opportunity to get to talk to a legend like yourself. And after seeing so many of these, being here is a little surreal.
It's different, huh? It's so great to put I was talking with Neverland about it, your co-host. Just like it's so great to put like the face to the profile, like because we get to connect on this other intimate level. And so I'm just very grateful for your time.
I agree, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here. This time you get to see me without the smoke.
Without the smoke, yeah. Man, I love that piece that you got up on Foresights. Where you got your hand right here. It's got the poem. I want to talk about it here in a bit. But before we get into all of that, for those that might be meeting you for the first time, can you talk to me about how you discovered your artistic side and give me a little bit of background on yourself and what brought you to exchange art?
Definitely. So I've been, ever since I was young, I've kind of lean towards the arts, and I've always thought different. All my elders thought I was an old soul, so I picked up an iPhone, iPod, the ones with the camera, the first that came out around the same time as Instagram, and I snapped my first picture, and ever since then it's been love. It's been my muse. It's been my way of expressing, and a little bit further from that point, still around the same age. I was probably like 13. There was this competition for school to write a poem. And so I wrote a poem about what was going on. We had a lot of gun violence in Puerto Rico when I was growing up, still today, but I wrote a piece about gun violence when I was probably like 13, and they read it in the intercom at school. And so that was the first time I really found the power of words. I felt it. I saw the reactions and what people would say to me after hearing the poem. And so between those two, I really found a perfect synergy to where I could express some of my thoughts in visual form, and the more complex train of thoughts I could translate to words.
And so what brought you to exchange art? There's all these other platforms, there's all these other blockchains, but how did you get to exchange art and Solana?
Well, that's really funny that you bring up, because I had been in crypto as just buying and selling, trading crypto for a good while, and I had been staking out this whole NFT movement for quite some time, but never really figuring out when was the right time to jump in, not knowing where to go and not knowing what to do. And so I quit one of my jobs this past January, and in between that, I had 2 different job offers, and so I took those. But I decided, let me take a week, let me really dive in, let me see if I can learn something, learn how to get the jump start. And so I hopped in a space with you and John, and you guys talked me up about Solana, exchange art, and I got interested, piqued my interest. And so I dove deep, I figured it out. And a week after that, I minted my first project.
Let's dive in. Let's talk about some of your collections. So Carbon Base was the collection we were talking about. Can you tell me what's your favorite image out of this collection?
Ooh, that one's a hard question, but I would probably go with Open Mind. I actually had that one framed in my room for a couple of years.
Can you tell me about the story behind Open Mind and how did the collection come to be? Did you draft like the idea beforehand? Can you talk to me about the messaging behind the collection?
Definitely. Well, this collection was really unique. I was finishing my undergrad in Orlando, and so at the time I was splitting half of my classes in the philosophy department, half in the art department. And so I knew what times the art studio was open, available. And so a lot of the times I would get to school 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m. And I figured, let me take advantage of this. I only come to school 2 days out of the week. Let me go into the art room. Let's just experiment for a while. And so they had a whole bunch of different skulls and skeletons for the drawing classes. And I figured, let me play around with these. Let me make different formations, see what flows. And so, and then just that started playing with it. And in the process, I discovered that this project really spoke to a lot of conceptual issues. And so it always reminded me of what would intelligent life look like if it wasn't necessarily made the same way as we are. And that's where the name comes for it. Because in most of the animal world, we see that all the bones themselves are composed of carbon. And so they're carbon based. Yet they still carry life and they still carry intelligence. And what were to happen if we were to, let's say, dive 50 years into the future, and let's say we have open relationships with another intelligent life form, and what would they look like? And that's where this project came about. Just thinking about these humanoids which would resemble us but not necessarily be us.
After this collection, we came to peripherals. Can you talk to me a little bit about this collection, how you curated it, and the message and story behind these?
Definitely. This collection was really unique because I have very overarching themes deep into the photography vaults, and there's a lot of landscape, there's a lot of architecture, there's a lot of wildlife, there's a lot of black and white. But a lot of these images and some of my best images just stood at the periphery of my body of work. They didn't necessarily feature and blend in perfectly with everything else that was in my arsenal. And I felt these were some of my more conceptual pieces. And so did a pre-selection. And in the process of pre-selection, it really stood out to me that this collection really reflects an artist's journey. Is breaking out of that box and breaking out of your shell, coming into your own voice and showing what you have to say, growing that self-confidence, that self-doubt, and really starting to shine into your own light. And how in that process you release all that toxic energy, all that toxic weight that's just holding you back. And so it lets you come down and shine into your light. And so I feel like in the narrative of the collection itself, here's a little different because it's not in the same order as I selected them, but it really does kind of bring to that growing out of comfort and just the imposter syndrome into recognizing, yes, this is me, and I am navigating in this world as an anonymous, but I'm here to send a message.
Appreciate it. So we have this collection out, and so you get into the spaces. You start Soul City Radio, and you start bumping around, meeting some other artists, and you've got a collab that you worked with DJ and Poet on. Can you talk to me about who slid into whose DM first? Did DJ slide into yours? Did you slide into DJ's?
I started digging through his exchange art, and I saw that he had a collaborations collection, and there wasn't really a lot of photography. Curiously, that same day he posted a tweet about how he needs to do more photography collaborations, and I just responded under that tweet. That led to him being on board with the idea. I thought we were going to do a piece, and so I was just frantically rushing to get a Google Drive ready. Dropped probably like 40 pictures in there. I had just gotten back from PR, and so I sent him over the drive, and he looks at them, and he gets back to me with, well, "You might have to do a collection." At that point, I was like, "What? No way! no way. And so 2 weeks after that, he comes out with the finished product, and his process was really interesting. So all the letters are hand drawn, and he scanned those, put them in, and his idea was really interesting. It was kind of what a dystopic future looked like, and what if aliens were to come in and see the dystopic remains and decide, no, we're gonna give up. We're not trying to bring this one back, and they just out and leave.
Such a fantastic collection, fantastic collab. Definitely pushing the poetry forward, because after those two collabs, we now have Foresights that came out, and this is your personal photography and poetry collection. Can you talk to me a bit about this, and maybe which one's your favorite?
Definitely. This collection really was kind of inspired by working with fellow poets and being more involved in the poetry scene, seeing how it's growing. And I have really never put my poetry out there for the most part. And one Friday, I find my old poetry notebook. I start reading, and I got into this flow state where reading old poems brought on these trains of thought to where I sat down, I wrote more pieces, and the excitement of it all led to, well, let me see what they would look like on a picture. Started with one, ended doing the whole collection in one sitting. And it was probably a good 7, 8 hours of writing, readjusting, figuring out which pieces would go where, what piece would relate perfectly to each poem. And it really came out as a almost like a poetic narrative where each piece leads to the next and kind of picks up where the last one left off. And I think my favorite one would be Who Will I Be? I wrote that piece living in Georgia, and it was January 2017, freshly into a new presidential term, and being one of the probably handful of Latinos in that little small town in Georgia, there was a lot of situations that I had to deal with, and a lot of negativity, a lot of backlash, a lot of racist situations that's really brought this Who Will I Be? I know I see myself as being the complete opposite of what a stereotypical definition of me would be, and they don't see it. And so who will I be? Will I be one to show you the way and tell you, hey, you're wrong, let me show you by example? Or was I gonna be another statistic? And so that dealing with that issue of not fitting in and the discomfort, the rage, all the feelings involved really brought this moment up. And this is the only poem that I had ever read out anywhere before I did the poetry reading space. And I read it during the George Floyd riots. And so it has that extra sentimental value.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the history on that. And I'm so sorry that you had to experience any kind of racism or hate or bigotry. Definitely not something that we stand for here in Web3. So I appreciate you talking to me about the collections. I appreciate learning all the different stories, and you pulling back the curtain to get to know you better as an artist. You're on the grind as an artist, but not only as an artist, but as a founder of this growing radio network, Soul City Radio. Can you tell me, where did we come up with Soul City Radio? How do you find the time between producing all this art and putting together Soul City Radio? Because it seems like it's a pretty big undertaking.
It is. I have to really set certain times and really try to organize everything to where I have designated periods for everything, and also not let my real life kind of fall back either. And so Soul City Radio really started from this idea of doing a morning show. I would get up usually when I first got up at 3, and I would hop on these showrooms, and I would hop in a showroom at 7 a.m. and not get up to talk till about 1 p.m. And so I figured this is a really horrible use of my time. This is a really horrible use of the Twitter spaces. Why don't I just start one? And I started the Early Bird Art Show, and a few people came up, and it was pretty good. And then I got in touch with Patrick. I got in touch with Neverland, and I brought them on as co-hosts. We figured, let's build this up as a show. Let's actually make a morning show, and it came out to be the Rise Before Grind show. And as time went by, things got bigger, and it just so happened that we said, there's not a lot of Solana spaces. Why don't we just build a network? Why don't we do something for the Solana community to where it's not just Solana Saturday, and it can be Solana every day? And we figured the best way we could do this is, let's reach out to different communities that already host their shows, and they're already in Solana. We're not trying to compete. Why don't we just partner up? Let's build this big umbrella, this radio network, to where we can all help self-promote each other's shows. And so that's really how it came about. And so we reached out to the Exchange Art Photo Collective, we reached out to John, we reached out to SoulPix. And since you were a member always dropping alpha, we started building brick by brick, and it's steadily growing.
It's so excellent. It's so great to see you come into this space and absolutely smash it. You definitely, Rise Before Grind is definitely the theme of your, it seems like, your career. You've been rising up to the challenges and grinding through. And so it's wonderful to be a part of the process and get to see you flourish. I want to say thank you so much for your time. How can people listen and participate? How can they get involved with the Soul City Radio? What are the days Rise Before Grind's on? And then how can they get in touch with some of the other shows for the Soul City Radio Network?
Well, that's a very easy way to navigate. You can either go to the Soul City Radio account on Twitter. There we post the lineup of, currently I think it's 8 shows. So 8 shows throughout the week. One of the 2 main shows is the Rise Before Grind show, which goes on Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. EST to about 11 a.m. EST. And yeah, usually every Sunday we drop the lineup, the schedule for the week, and we post the updates, all the links to all the spaces, and it's been growing. It's been a really interesting journey.
Well, it's great to be a part of the journey with you. And, you know, we look forward to seeing your continued success. Look forward to having you back on the show another time. Do you have any final thoughts, closing words, or advice for someone that might be new entering the NFT ecosystem?
Definitely. As term of like last mentions, I will mention Lens Alliance, which is the photography collective that I've been building, and so that seems to be coming this week, dropping on Exchange Art, hoping to onboard 22 new photographers as well as the other 26 members to create a cohesive project that really helps elevate the one-on-one photography scene. And for anybody new jumping in the space, my best advice would be be genuine, actually build genuine connections. Don't chase the paper trail, don't chase the clout. Build, get in touch with communities, try to make your mark beyond the sale. Do something that fulfills you, not just necessarily chasing a sale, because that gets draining and it'll dim your light. So stay true to yourself, stay true to your integrity, push out your art, be confident, don't be afraid to reach out for help. We're here to help. I think that's one of the themes in Web3. And so just show up, keep working towards it, and it'll come.
Thank you for those wise words, Hyro. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody watching. Make sure to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and be kind to Mother Earth. Get outside, go do a little bit of trash cleanup, whether it's in a neighborhood, a park, a river, a pond, an ocean that you care about, any natural place that you care about. It can even be, like I said, a neighborhood. Because without taking care of the pollution problem, without taking care of plastics in our water, we won't have a Mother Earth to call home, and we won't be able to share that anymore. And all this blockchain, all the fiat won't matter. With that being said, always GM.